Contextual studies in art and design is the exploration and understanding of broader contexts in which art and design exist. While the average eye only appreciates the aesthetic of that piece of art, it is crucial to take time to see the main essence of it. In this video, I'm going to explore a revolutionary modern art movement, Impressionism, which helped liberate art from a focus on subject matter to a personal expression. But before that, I would like to present a preview on the characteristics of the art movements in art history. Prehistoric art is the earliest form of art in history, from around 40,000 to 4000 BC, which was 2.4 million years ago. Prehistoric art can be characterized by cave paintings, flat two-dimensional pictorial images, limestone sculptures, and stone arrangements. Ancient art arose at the time of civilization from around 30,000 BC to AD 400. Ancient art is characterized by religious and symbolic imagery with decorations for objects and mythological stories. Then came medieval art, which is characterized by religious subjects, natural elements, individualism, and realism. The Renaissance is a period of the most exceptional artistic production, centered in Rome, Italy, with a focus on realism and humanism by masters like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. Lasted from around 1400 to 1600, Renaissance has a reputation for its achievements in paintings, architecture, and science. Baroque art from the 1600s to the 1750s is distinctive for its dramatic light and exaggerated details. Rococo art from the 1690s to the 1780s is characterized by elegant natural forms and asymmetrical designs. Neoclassicism in the 1750s is inspired by its interest in classical antiquity. Romanticism is an emphasis on passion, emotion, and nature. Modern art movement started around the 1860s in the time of the Industrial Revolution. With the popularization of photography, the artists couldn't see the point of trying to cover reality, and they started to paint freely and abstractly. The artists experimented with drawings, paintings, and sculptures. The modern art movement started with Impressionism, Art Nouveau, and is followed by the most isms as Fauvism, Expressionism, Cubism, Futurism, Dadaism, Surrealism, and Abstract Expressionism. Artists of the modern art movement focus on making new aesthetics. From the 1970s to the present is the contemporary art movement. These new takes on art include pop art, minimalism, conceptual art, performance art, and postmodernism. Contemporary artists experiment with performance art, video art, installation art, and virtual art, focusing on the social issues of the current world. Now that you've got an overview of the art movements, let's dive into Impressionism. Impressionism is an art movement originated in France in the 19th century, with a group of Paris-based artists no more than 8 or 9. Their independent exhibition brought them to prominence during the 1870s and the 1880s. Impressionism art is known for its relatively thin yet visible brushstrokes, use of mixed and pure and blended colors with an emphasis on light and movement. The paintings depict ordinary subject matters in the scenes of everyday life. The Impressionists painted spontaneously with open composition. Development of Impressionism in visual arts was soon followed by similar styles in other media that became known as Impressionist music and Impressionist literature. The mid-19th century was a time of rapid industrialization and unsettling social-political changes in France. As the Emperor Napoleon III rebuilt Paris and waged war, the Academy of the Arts dominated French art. The Academy was the preserver of traditional fine painting standards of contact and style. Religious themes, historical subjects, and portraits were valued by the Academy. Still lifes and landscape paintings were not. The Academy prefer realistic pictures that have been carefully finished. Paintings in this style are made up of precise brushstrokes that were carefully blended to hide the artist's hand in the work. Colors were too restrained and toned down further by application of thick golden finishes. The Academy had an annual jewelry art show, the Salon des Bahuts. Artists whose works were displayed in the show won prizes, garnered commissions, and enhanced their prestige. The works of artists such as Jean-Léon Gérôme and Alexandre Cabanel represented the Academy. Their works used a mix of techniques and formulas established in Western art since the Renaissance. They painted in scale, linear perspective, and figure types developed from Greek art. These artists produced escapist visions and reassuringly ordered work which the Academy favored. Artists who would later be called Impressionists met in the early 1860s while they were studying under the French Academy of the Arts. They shared an interest in painting landscapes and contemporary life rather than historical or mythological subject matters. They also shared dissatisfaction with Academy's teaching's emphasis on religious and historical figures. Most artists were in their 20s who were just forming their artistic styles. The young painters adapted the practice of painting entirely out of doors while looking at the actual scene. They painted realistic scenes of modern life, often outdoors, when still lifes, portraits, and even landscapes were usually painted in the studio. The Impressionists exhibited their works of art on their own, which was quite revolutionary at the time. The most prominent and truest Impressionist, Claude Monet, interested in Eugene Bourdin's innovative paintings, which depicted fleeting effects of sea and sky. These kinds of paintings are heavily colored and texturally varied. Joseph Malot William Tanner's atmospheric work was influential on the bed of Impressionism also. The early Impressionists all admired and were inspired by the established artist Edouard Manet, who painted modern subjects objectively. In Manet's painting, the perspective depth was minimized so that the viewer would look at surface patterns and relationships of the picture rather than at the three-dimensional illusion created. Manet was a controversial figure in the French art world. His work, The Lantern on the Grass, was rejected by the Salon. While the Salon jury routinely accepted nudes in historical painting, they condemned Manet for placing a realistic nude in a contemporary setting. In the late 1860s, Impressionist artists began painting landscapes and river scenes. In such paintings, they tried to record colors and forms of objects as they appeared in natural light. They emphasized on accurate depictions of light in its changing qualities, often accentuating effects of passage of time. These artists abandoned the traditional palette of muted greens, browns, and grays. Instead, they painted in a lighter, sunnier, brilliant key. They incorporated new techniques and ideas into their work of style. They learned to build up objects out of discrete flecks and depths of pure harmonizing or contrasting color. Therefore, this technique evoked broken hue, brilliance, and variations of color produced by sunlight and its reflection. Throughout the 1860s, the painters had work accepted into the Salon. The Salon consistently rejected most of their works. Then, the artists held their own exhibition in 1874 with other fellow artists. In 1873, the Anonymous Societies of Artists, Painters, Sculptors, etc. was founded with members including Claude Monet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Alfred Sisley, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas, and Bart Morisot. The collective aimed to organize exhibitions independently, sell art, and publish a journal. When the first exhibition was organized in 1874, the members invited a number of artists from their network to showcase. 30 participants accepted the invitation, and the result was an exhibition of various styles and media. Some critics appreciated the group's effort to break from the establishment, but most didn't like the art and wrote blistering reviews. The critic Louis Lavoie wrote in his article, quote-unquote, "Wallpaper in its embryonic stage is more finished than that seascape." After seeing Monet's painting, Impressionism Sunrise, he described the artist derisively as Impressionism, and the artists accepted the name as an accurate description of their interests and adopted the name. The first exhibition was a financial failure, and the Société Anonyme was soon distorted. However, in subsequent years, several artists who founded the society staged 7 more exhibitions. During the exhibition years, the participants continued to develop their own style, but they are all united in their work by the principles of freedom of techniques, truthful reproduction of nature, and a personal approach to the subject matter instead of a conventional one. Individual artists achieved few financial rewards from Impressionist exhibition, but gradually their art won a degree of public acceptance and support. The Impressionist group had already begun to dissolve by the 1880s, and each painter pursued his or her own aesthetic interests and principles. Even though they were a diverse group in style and temperament, they were unified primarily on their spirit of independence and rebellion. In its short existence, it had accomplished a revolution in the history of art, providing a technical study point for artists such as Paul Cézanne, Vincent van Gogh, and Paul Gauguin. Impressionists reacted to modernity by exploring a wide range of non-academic subjects in art. They included middle-class leisure activities, urban themes such as cafes, theaters, train stations, and dance. Impressionists found inspiration in newly widened avenues of Paris, newly built tall buildings with bustling crowds, popular entertainments, and nocturnal lights were a rich source of inspiration for the artists. Impressionists relaxed the boundary between the subject and background so that the effect of such painting resembles a snapshot. In a time when photography was gaining popularity, Impressionists were inspired to represent momentary action rather than create exact representations. Visual Impressionism influenced other media as well, such as sculpting, photography, film, music, and literature. Edgar Degas, who was primarily known as a painter in his lifetime, created as many as 150 sculptures later in his artistic career. Only Little Dancers of 14 Years was exhibited at the 6th Impressionist exhibition in 1881. Sculptor Auguste Rodin is sometimes called an Impressionist for the way he models surfaces with rough textures to suggest transient light effects. Musical Impressionism is known for creating shifting moods and atmosphere. Claude Debussy and Maurice Ravel are generally considered the greatest Impressionist composers. Impressionists violated the rules of academic painting. They constructed their pictures from freely brushed color that took primacy over lights and contours. They tried to capture momentary and transient effects of light by painting outdoors known as en plein air. The art movement was harshly criticized by the critics initially, but gradually the public came to believe that Impressionism had captured a fresh and original vision, even if the art critics and art establishment disapproved of the style. Impressionism is a precursor of various painting styles, including post-impressionism and cubism, which are the major parts of the modern art movement. Impressionism also opened a path for subsequent artists of Western painting to diverge from traditional techniques and an approach to subject matter. As Impressionists argued, Impressionism was a different way of seeing, the art of immediacy and movement, the art of candid poses and composition. And most significantly, Impressionism was the art of the play of light expressed in bright and various uses of color.